say there is a first time for everything. A first kiss, your first car, the unrequited first love. However, what does this mean in the grand scope of things? Are firsts more monumental because they are the first, or do we get better with practice? Do we remember our first as more important than they actually were, holding on to that magical moment as a mark of our past and future selves? Do our firsts outshine what comes next? On A First Time for Everything, we will explore with our guests their firsts and how those impacted the seconds, thirds, and even countless times after. Is the first the best or merely the beginning? Or worse, was the first the last because it was so bad? We will dig into the recesses of our memories and consider whether or not a first was the start of something amazing or something we'd rather not remember. Come along with me, Juliet Rose, as I put our guests in the hot seat to analyze their firsts and how they defined who they became. I promise you're in for a fun, although maybe bumpy ride. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of First Time for Everything. We are here tonight with Karina Kantas, and we're happy to have you join us. And just so everybody remembers, please send a star. Let our hosts and producers know how much you appreciate what we do here at Go Indie Now. Every time you contribute, you get entered into our season prize package drawing with gift card swag and more. And welcome, Karina. It's really good to see you again. I know we've kind of done a few panels together, so it's really neat to see you. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and anything you'd like us to know?
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Julia. It's great to see you again. So, hi, everyone. I am Karina Kantas. Firstly, I am an author. I have 14 books published. I'm a prolific author, writing in most genres. My last bestseller was a dark mafia romance, and my first ever book was a young adult urban thriller. And I've done everything in between. I also run Author Assist. I've been in the publishing industry for over 30 years now, and I mentor and coach writers into starting their book and finishing their book. Then I help them get it ready for publishing, whether they want to do it themselves or go mainstream. I'm there to help them along the way. And then I also show them how to market and promote themselves and their book so that they have a great launch for their new release and they get up those Amazon charts. In between of all of that, I do voiceovers, book trailers, narrations. I have a podcast, Behind the Pen. I had a TV show previously. I help host a radio show with another host. And so I wear many hats. I've been doing this for a very, very long time now. It's lovely to be here. Thanks, Juliet.
That's awesome. Yeah, you do a lot. I know we've chatted before, and every time you kind of intro yourself in any of these panels that we've been on, I'm always like, wow, I think I'm busy, but I think you definitely are busier than I am, which is saying a lot. So where are you located?
I'm in Manchester, UK.
Okay. And what time is it there now?
It is now 1:05 in the morning.
I was going to say, did I make you get up in the middle of the night to do this? So I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I have chronic insomnia, and most of my clients are in the US. So me being awake this time is perfect really for work. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, you seem very perky. You know, you don't seem like somebody who's like ready to just like drop. So that's good.
I might drop off to sleep any second. You'll have to wake me up if it happens.
And Anita says, hello, Anita. It's good to see you here again tonight.
Hey, Anita.
So I guess let's kind of jump into this. So obviously you've been doing this a long time. You said you've been in publishing for 30 years. You have 14 books. And I know you said you're a cross genre, so you write a little bit of everything. But when was the kind of first time that you knew in your life that you wanted to be a writer? And how did you pursue it from that point?
It was reading the author Essie Hinton.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely adore her books, her rebel fiction, I called them. The Outsiders, of course, yes. The classic that was then turned into a movie with the Brat Pack, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, and the list goes on. Gorgeous, gorgeous guys. Fantastic story. And it just really hit home to me that I felt as though I never felt like I belonged. I was bullied at school, didn't have a great upbringing family-wise, and so I felt like I was an outsider, and I understood where they came from, why they did what they did, and that there are people out there that can be family and they don't need to be blood. And I had my own story to tell. And so, of course, naive debut author like I was, I wanted to be the next Essie Hinton. I wanted to get my books in the English curriculum. I wanted to get my books in all of the libraries, you know, to be known and to be famous like her. I was penning myself as the outsiders of 2000 and what was it, 21, I think. No, I can't remember now. Many, many years ago, anyway. So I did my first book, which was called In Times of Violence. And it was very biographical, but the readers don't know what parts were real and what parts weren't. And again, it's about an outsider who just feels like she has nothing, and she meets a group who don't abide by society's rules. All they care about is their group. And they have the respect and love that they've always wanted, and they have their family. And so this character is in the same situation, but it's not so easy. She has to fight for her title. She has to um, go through a lot to get where she wants to be. There's no happy ending, happy ever after. It's my books are more happily for now. You know, satisfied with the way things have been left, but no happy ever after, because I like to write about reality. And sadly, reality life is dark. It is not all roses and candy floss and flowers. I mean, yeah, some people do get a happy ever after, but in life, it more than likely it's not. So I like to bring that realistic darkness to my books, and even though it's a young adult, so it's not so violent and explicit as my next books are.
Right.
But it was Essie Hinton that started me off when I read that, and I read That Was Then and This Is Now, Taming of the Star Runner, Tex,
Yeah.
I'm missing one, Rumblefish.
Rumblefish. Yeah.
I watched all the movies that were then, you know, related to her. Did you know she starred in all her movies? She had a cameo role in every one of her movies.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And they just meant so much to me that I wanted to write my own, and I thought if she can do it, I can do it. Of course, like I said, I was naive. I went with the vanity press as well, and I got burnt, and I learnt from that, as many do. But talking of the outsiders, I've actually, because I was living in Greece, and when I came over, I had to leave everything behind, and I left all my original copies of all my Essie Hinton's books. And it was the lovely Nessie, I call her Nessie, from the troop group, as we all know, Vanessa, who told me to go out and buy another copy of the book that started it all.
Yeah.
And reread it and find my passion and my love again. And so I can start writing, because it's been a while since I picked up a pen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You see, I love this because, like, quite often when I'm interviewed, people are like, well, you know, what inspired you? And Essie Hinton was the same for me. My mother passed away when I was 11, and I moved to a different household. I had been living in the inner city with my mother, and then got shifted around and came across The Outsiders. And I was, 11 years old, and read it. And it was like the first time I was like, oh, I've been seen, like that moment of like, I am not alone out there. And I loved it so much. I actually, back then you had to handwrite everything. So I hand wrote her a letter, sent it to the publisher. I don't know if she ever got it, like it's just, but it
I did the same. I had to thank her. Yeah, I had to thank her for her amazing books and her story, and to, blame her for me becoming a writer.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I think we do tend to pick up not on their style, but like we're so inspired by that I like, at least for me, it definitely fed into like how I wrote, in the sense of like I really wanted that character development. I really wanted that connectability
Yeah.
to the characters first and foremost. Like that was Then, This Is Now. I always joke, but I literally finished that book and threw it across the room. I was so enraged at the ending. But then I read it again, like, because it was like
As
that.
you
It was
do, as you do. I think what I wanted to copy with her was how easy the books were. They were easy reads. There was no
Mhm.
complicated words. There
Yeah.
was no over descriptive, flowery
Yep.
writing. And I wanted all my books to be easy reads, just like Essie Hinton's.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I love that you said that, because I think I'm the like, I know people know Essie Hinton, but I don't think no one's ever said that that was what inspired them, and it was such part of my inspiration. And same thing, I wrote immediately, like I was writing in junior high school, and never did anything but that. But I mean, it made me really want to write, and I have a copy of The Outsiders too. It's on my bookshelf because it's another one of those. But I really love that, because I think that especially maybe today's youth don't really know about her books, and I always try to say, just read them, because no matter when she wrote them, they're so pertinent to today.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, there is no date on them. It's the same as your book, the first book you've written, the first book I've written.
Yep.
There is no date. It's never going to go out of date. They're always going to be around, and they're always going to be relevant.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The thing is relevance. Being able to write a story during a certain time period that's relevant for decades after, where people can pick it up and say, I see myself in this. That is really, I guess, like my end goal, like in life. I was like, I want someone 50 years from now to pick up my book and go, this means something to me today. So I think that, yeah, she has that ability to transcend, time. So let's kind of go back to, I guess, when you wrote your first book. This was, you said, in 2021. Yeah.
No. I don't know why I threw that date out.
Okay,
I've actually got the first ever copy of, and it was a really bad cover, of In Times of Violence. That was the first ever copy. And that was done, gosh, I'm going to have to open it now. Never mind. Let's find out. I remember when I was giving it, I was actually in hospital at the time. And my husband came in with this brown envelope, and I had no idea what it was. And he gave it to me, and I opened it up, and I was just like jumping up and down, hugging it to my chest, tears rolling down my face. 2005.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, 2021 wasn't very long ago. 2005. Okay. Yeah. I wrote a book. It's not in publication anymore. I wrote a book around that same time. And then since then, I was like, I'm going to pull that out of publication.
That's the last edition of the cover,
yeah.
which is a lot different.
Yeah, it looks good though. So is that still, you said that is still in publication?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the young adult version. Now there is a adult version that my fans are going to kill me for this. I've been writing for many, many years. The first draft is done, but I've had so much stuff go on in my life that writing took a back seat. It will be published one day. And the cover has been created nearly 5 years ago for this book, for when it comes out. And the reason I've done an adult version is because In Times of Violence, of course, started off as one book. You never think you're going to write another one. You just want to get that one book out, It's something you have to do. But the fans demanded a sequel. The sequel came out, and then it was, okay, well, let's do a story about a female biker gang. Because we've had the outsiders type, we've had the boy biker gang, the biker clubs, the outlaw clubs. Let's do a female one. And then after that, then it was, well, there's different kinds of clubs. You've got the outlaw clubs, and then you've got the actual bikers that have legitimacy. They do sponsors racing on the circuits on their super bikes. Well, what happens if those two clubs clash? So the whole of the Outlaw series was 4 books. However, the first book in Times of Violence was a young adult and the other books were at 18. And there's no way I could ever put them together as an outlaw box set. And
Right.
so I was always going to write the adult version of Times of Violence, but it took over 10 years before I started it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have a comment says, the fun thing about S.E. Hinton is those books hold over the test of time too. And that is definitely true. And I think that's the mark of a really good book, is that no matter when it's written, and even if an author's very specific to the time that they're in, they write it in a way using character development that is relatable no matter what. So like, even though we know her stories took place in the late 60s, I read it in the 80s, so like it didn't matter. Like it was relatable. And I think that's the mark of a really good book, is that, no matter when you pick it up, you're going to go, I see myself in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your first book, you put it out. What was your initial kind of like, once you got it out into the world, what was your initial kind of response to it? And how did you feel, or what would you do differently if you could go back and like tweak things?
Well, I was naive. I thought it was going to be a bestseller. I thought I was going to get royalties every month from it. I thought, it's going to go so well. My next book is going to be optioned. And, you've got all these wild dreams as an author, especially back then. There was no Kindle books. There was no electronic books back then. So it's all paperbacks, and you needed to have a publisher or an agent to go anywhere with your book. My dreams were up there in the clouds.
Yeah.
I soon came down to earth. And it's my story. I wanted it out there. I've written it. I've done it. It's out there. Yes, I got burnt by Avanti Press. So desperate to get this book published. They took advantage of a naive author like I was. I've done everything I can since to warn authors and potential writers about the red flags for Vanity Press and all the stuff that goes on out there, the good, bad, and the ugly. But yeah, I was initially so proud. Like I said, when he gave it to me in the hospital bed, I was jumping up and down at the other patients looking at me, thinking she's really gone crazy. And it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And I will never forget how I felt holding that book in my hand, seeing my name on the cover. It boosted me to write more. The reviews that I got from it made me want to write the next one. Demands for a sequel, which I had no intention of doing. I might have written something else later on, but a sequel? There was no way there was going to be a sequel. So I think it was the reviews of the book sort of spurred me on into continuing with the writing. And it was like, it's such an achievement to actually put your words on paper.
It is.
It's not about having that book published and holding it, which is an amazing feeling. But that's your story, and you've written it down, and you've told that story, and it is such an achievement to actually write a book, whether it's published or not. So anyone who's actually done that and it hasn't gone anywhere, then kudos to you and congratulations, because it takes a lot, especially your first book, because you put a lot of yourself in your first book without realizing. You do. And it takes a lot out of you. So kudos to anyone who's done that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, there's that meme that goes around that says, whatever, this percentage of people, that are writers will actually finish manuscript, this percentage of people, but it is something to be proud of. It's a lot of work. And it's that first book is really tough because you are on so many levels new to it. So you're pouring your heart out into this work, but you're also new to the whole process, the whole marketing, the publishing, the whatever. And I was going to say too, like, I got burned by traditional, and there were small presses, but I got burned by them too. So I think that's good advice for writers to really understand that it's like not their fault when you get burned. You're not going into that knowing their intention. You're going in assuming their intention is pure.
Yeah.
And, I had 3 different publishers. I had basically had to either pull manuscripts from or it fell apart. And I went into that with the intent that they knew what they were doing. And
You
so I
do.
trusted them. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes you do get burned. And I do want writers to understand that, like, it's not your fault if you get burned.
Yeah.
If you get burned more than once, maybe, like, if you do it again. But like initially, it's going to happen sometimes. And I think that's really important. And it's good that you're offering that service to people to say, let me help you kind of get through this process. Because I think a lot of people, they get that manuscript written and they're like, now what? And they're so...
Exactly.
They want...
Now what?
Yeah,
Now
now what? And
what?
they're like, kind of like, I'll put it out there and see. We all have those dreams of grandeur.
There
Like,
was
we're
there
gonna
was no one there to help me. There was no peers to tell
No.
me what to do next. I had to learn it all myself. And so everything that I've learned over these 30 years of writing and publishing and marketing and everything else, I wanted to give back to authors that need that help and know that they can trust somebody who's been there and done it and has
Yes.
got their back. And
Yes.
that's the problem with Author Assist. It's so many people have heard about the burning, the vanity press, the red flags that are out there. They don't know who to trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't just blindly trust, because I mean, it's just scams. And there's a lot of people that pop up as a publisher and they have no skill. They don't know what they're doing. They just decided that's what they're going to do. So it's really good to have programs like Author Assist, because what you're doing is allowing people to say, I'm a little lost. What's my next step? And I think for a lot of people, there are manuscripts that sit in people's computers or whatever, because they don't know that next step. They're afraid.
They don't know that next step, and they're afraid. They're afraid.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, testimonials, I can rave on about what I do and how brilliant I am, but that's nothing. You've got to hear that from people I've worked with, people that I'm currently working with, go onto my website. They're all on there, video testimonials, written testimonials. I can get in touch with any of them, apart from one, bless her, she's no longer with us. For you to talk with them and to get the straight face to face of what I'm like to work with. I never promise. It is very hard to navigate. You know that, Anita. Yeah. We do. I mean, me, Anita, we've been around, and we do as much as we can to give our expertise and advice to other authors that need it. We've been there, we've done that, and we want to help as many people as we can. We do that through podcasts, through panels, to give our knowledge away. We don't sell it. We want people to understand that there's people out there that will help if you want to ask. That's all you have to do is ask, and there are people that will gladly give you the correct advice.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think good authors are always wanting to help other authors because they believe in the craft. And if we believe in the craft, we want it to be good. We want to elevate what's out there, So I think that, especially when you get into indie or self-publishing, because for so long it did have such a negative connotation, you would say that to people and they'd almost run away, screaming.
Yeah.
Now they're better, but I think that because we as indie authors and publishers are trying to elevate the craft, that we're helping other people. So now better stuff's being put out. Like, I was recently a judge for an indie contest, and I was really impressed with the quality of work, where 15 years ago it wasn't as
everybody
good.
Was a writer, because Kindle allowed every book to be published, and the rubbish that came out,
oh my God.
It gave us all a bad reputation.
Exactly.
And we've been fighting for years to get that reputation back as professional authors.
Like the saying goes, the rising tide lifts all boats. We're only helping ourselves when we help other indie authors. So it's not a secret, we're not trying to hold on to it. But I love that you're doing that. And definitely people check her website out, because I think that's really beneficial. I just wanted to show this comment real quick. I skipped it, but I'll come back. It says, Karina and Juliet, you both have something else in common. You're both so cinematic in your approach. Both of you write visually stunning. The reason why I held on to that is because I actually wanted to discuss that. So I haven't read your work. I definitely will. But I like that concept, because one thing I've always said is I feel like I'm kind of like a hack, because I really feel like I'm watching a movie that I'm just transcribing. You know what I'm doing?
Bingo!
So,
bingo! You see that as a writer, and hopefully as a reader who's reading the book, you see the scene play out because you've written it that way. And as Joe says, he's read one of my books, he's read one of yours, so he knows, he puts himself in that film. He sees what's going on in that scene. If you've written it correctly, if you've described it enough, and not over description, mind you, then every reader can put themselves into the shoes of that main character and be in that scene and play it out. I think a lot of that is done through dialogue.
Yep.
Because you get the emotions out when it comes to dialogue. Every scene needs to be described where you are, otherwise the reader's going to have no idea of what they're looking at, what they're seeing. But it's when you love films, when you love reading a book, that really takes you there.
Yep.
The more you watch the films, the more you read, the better your writing will get.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know if you've read or seen A Monster Calls, the book A Monster Calls, and then they made a movie version of it.
No.
And so I saw the movie first because it was on Netflix. And I was like, that looks really good. Loved it, cried, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to read the book. And what I loved about the book is it literally was like they didn't have to change anything. They just took that book word for word and they turned it into this movie. And I loved the beauty of that. I was like, that was amazing, because I when I was reading the book, I was back in the movie, because they didn't have to cinemize it. You know, it was what it was. And I think that's a real skill for a writer, to be able to write something where, and it doesn't have to be made into an actual movie, but where it is made into a movie for that reader. You know, they're reading it, and in their mind, they're in that movie, they're sitting watching the big screen, you know?
Yeah.
So have you ever wanted to write a screenplay, or have you ever thought about kind of
Joe knows this. Yeah, I've tried my hand at it. It's not easy. It's a totally different style of writing. I'll leave it to the professionals. But I have had someone working on the script of Lawless Justice, which is the third book of the Outlaw series, to turn it into a movie eventually. It was Quentin Tarantino's Death Race that inspired me to Death Car, I think, not Death Race, that inspired me for the actual group of ladies that lead a double life in the book Lawless Justice. And I put a little dedication in the front of the book just saying, thanks Quentin Tarantino, you know, you inspired me, your movie, blah blah blah, and if you ever fancy turning this into a movie, you know, come and knock on my door, I won't say no. Well, I interviewed someone once who actually directed with him on another movie. And when she heard about Lawless Justice, she was like, send me the script. And it was like, you know, that what they say, was it something Sides of Separation, where there's a thin line that connects us all somehow. And for me, if anybody would make Lawless Justice into a film, it would have to be Quentin Tarantino. Now, he doesn't do that anymore, unfortunately, but it would always have been him. So just that suddenly coming into my life of meeting that person who actually directed a film with him, and her wanting to read my script, it's just getting me that one step closer. I mean, this was years ago, nothing's happened since, but it just shows that there's always that opportunity out there, and who knows when it's going to hit. And if you have that, if it does knock, if the opportunity knocks, then you open that door, definitely.
I think it's really important to, like that, recognize that everything doesn't come in like large kind of roaring amounts. Sometimes it's little things, those little connections we make, those little, even if it doesn't pan out. So like I had same thing for one of my books. I had somebody interested in it that was a screenwriter, and they made films, and they were interested, but never really went anywhere. But it was still that moment that I said, one, hey, somebody's interested in it. That made me feel really good. Like, okay, I maybe did something. Two, just making those connections. Again, somebody I randomly met. So I think it's really important for us to continue like what we're doing here, talking to people, meeting them at different things, sharing our work, because you never know that moment that someone's just going to grab it and say, I want to do this.
Only takes one
Right.
person and one time. That's it.
Exactly.
Look
So I
at
think,
Rowling. Look at all these people that had that lucky break.
right. Exactly. And you never know when that's going to come. So it's really easy sometimes to say, well, this isn't working. I quit, or I'm not going to do this. But you never know. That conversation you have at the checkout line, or that event you go to where you didn't sell any books, somebody come up and chatted with you. You never know if those are going to then pan out to be something else. So it's really good to continually put yourself out there. Try to keep that positive mindset of like, I'm doing what I'm doing. Ultimately, you're doing what you want to do for your life. And so anything else that comes out of it's just a bonus.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really cool. So tell me a little bit about, so you have Author, what is it called? Author Assist. Tell me how you decided to go forward with that, and exactly what that entails.
Right. So it started with me doing my own book trailers for my books. People noticed them and they then wanted to hire me to do their book trailers. The same with narrations. I do readings from my books and people enjoyed the audio and the videos that I was doing and wanted me to do that for their books. And so Author Assist started off with those two services. 30 years later, I have publishing package, multimedia package, coaching and mentoring package, plus at least 15 other services that every author needs to have a career as a writer, whether it's learning how to use Canva, whether it's setting up a newsletter, a website, a book trailer, is all these things to do with marketing and promoting themselves and their book that they don't realize that they need, but I have and I offer it and I have that experience.
And it is necessary in this day and age. I have to say, like, if you're not, and I do a lot of in-person events, but if you're not online and you're not really presenting yourself in a way that attracts people, you're missing a really good opportunity. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not that great on it. I'm just not a super, like, I'll do social media for like social activism, but when it comes to my own books, not so much. So I think it is a service that's really important, and it's okay for people to say, well, I'm good at writing, I'm good at this, but I'm really struggling with this side of it. And to lean on someone.
Yeah. I do two things here. I can do the work for them so they can hire me or hire someone in my team as a VA and we can do the promotion and marketing. But if they have the time, and this is the whole reason why I started Author Assist, I will spend time with them and I will teach them the basics of marketing and promotion so they don't have to hire someone else, that they know how to do it.
Have you thought about putting that into book form, like where you had something you could provide for someone to get a book that has your knowledge?
No, I haven't. I mean, I think there's lots of books like that out there.
There are.
I like to do the one. I like to do the one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe that will get Author Assist known by bringing a book out. I mean, I know for a fact that having a book is the best marketing tool you can have for your business. It's having the time to do it. I mean, like I say, I haven't picked up a pen for a long time. I have 2 books that my fans are waiting for without even thinking about doing a non-fiction one.
Yeah, I understand that.
Maybe I'll get AI. I shouldn't say that. I said maybe I'll get AI to write it, but I just said it. Joe, did you hear that? Oh my gosh!
Can we edit that out?
No, yeah. Oh my gosh. No, everyone knows. Everyone in the writing community that knows me knows how against AI I am.
Yeah.
So me saying that was a total joke there.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. Yeah, I would never ever do that. You need your voice in a book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. You need that passion. You need to hear that voice, and you don't get that from a robot, from a computer.
No, yeah. And I like that you want to do stuff one-on-one too, in the sense of like everybody's situation is different. Everybody's coming probably to you with a different set of needs. Even though the needs are somewhat similar, maybe they are good at this part, but they're not good at this part, or they're
exactly.
So you really, by offering that, you're able to, adjust and adapt to what they actually need.
Exactly. It's like a la carte menu. What do you need? A pick and mix. You let me know which of these services that you need help with. Yeah.
So does that take up a lot of your time? Is that why you haven't written, or is it just that you haven't kind of felt the bug?
I had a lot of stuff going on personally, and I lost the passion for writing. Um, Author Assist has always been there, but I did take a step back once AI came because it nearly ruined my business, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So it's knowing how can I still help people that are using AI? How can they still need me? Why would they still need me? And so I had to take a step back and think about all of this. And now I'm started to come back now, social wise, on Facebook. People will see a lot more of me now. But Author Assist has always been there. I have clients from 10 years still working with me. Clients come backwards and forwards every time they have a new book. So I've always been there, but just not as vocal as I was until I could find out how can I keep Author Assist going and compete with AI, but it's not competing with AI, it's working with AI. Sadly, it's not going away, it won't.
Yeah.
And you have to accept it's here. And if Author Assist needs to keep going, then I have to, find a way to work alongside it.
That's really smart, because I think a lot of people, and I'm anti-AI as well, but I also recognize it's not going anywhere, and that really what we need to look at is, really for me, it's more about legislation and regulation of where AI is being used versus AI is here to stay. And unfortunately, we're not going to get away from that. And there's people that want it wholeheartedly, feet first in, and then there's people who want to do some of it, and then people that don't want any of it. And I think really we're still at that like baby stage of figuring out, yes, it's here. How do we basically integrate it without actually using it in the wrong ways? And so it sounds like you're doing that. So can you give me like an example of maybe somebody that's coming to you and they're wanting to use AI, and how you're working kind of with that with them?
Well, a lot of the nonfiction authors can, as you know, get AI to write a book within a few hours. I have to tell them that that's all good and well, especially if you just want to use it as a marketing tool and throw the book away and just give it away for free. I said, but it's not got your voice. People need to hear the words from you of what you do and why you do it. You need to give them a reason to buy the book. And you're not getting that from a computer. And as we all know, and as you know, Juliet, because of how you feel about AI, that anything an AI writes, it's coming from somewhere. It's not created like we create it.
Exactly.
It's coming from somewhere already created by someone.
Which is why I wanted to share
exactly.
it. Right
Thank you. Yeah.
Not so much the AI, but the unethical use of AI. Yeah. So this AI is being taken from other people's work. It's not like it's coming out of thin air.
So if you want to do AI assistance, then okay, we can use their knowledge, but you need to, and it's not about rewording, you need to write it using that knowledge, using those stats that you need for your book. Yes, get that from AI by all means, but don't plagiarize, don't copy, don't use everything that AI tells you to write. And another thing about AI, it's so robotic, it's so repetitive. Oh my gosh, you can tell, well, I can tell anytime something's been written by AI, because they say the same thing twice, but reword it differently.
Exactly. I've seen that too. Yeah. And it's not always accurate. One thing, like, now when you go to do, like, say, a Google search, first thing that comes up is like an AI summary of what you're searching, but it's not always accurate. And that's one thing I tell people is, like, you still need to do your research. Cause, like, say, for example, I was looking to see because I don't drink gluten. So I was looking for non-alcoholic gluten-free beer, and I typed in, is this beer, gluten-free? And it was like, yes, it's gluten-free. So this is what the AI said. So I don't trust AI. And I went and I started going through, and what it was doing was trying to pull things off websites, but it was pulling information for other things and then putting it with that. So if both beers were on the website, it's like, sure, it's gluten-free. No,
don't
the other beer was.
AI, yeah.
Don't listen to it. You have to do your own research, because otherwise you're going to put bad information out there into the world, and you don't want to, be liable for, say, if you write nonfiction and you're writing about something that could then harm somebody and you're using AI. you're still responsible for the words you put out there.
Yeah, exactly. The way I'm using AI as well is that I've had designers I've been working with for many, many years do the covers for my clients' books. I do graphic design myself. I always have with Canva. I mean, Canva, what's happening with Canva now, I'm pretty pissed about, because they have really moved with AI now. And it's sort of, I'm looking at their site now and I'm like, how do I use this now? I really don't want to. And I want to stick with those beautiful designers that I've been working with that do their creativity from their imagination, not from stock photos, not from AI graphics or anything.
Right.
But they're losing out. I mean, a lot of them have stopped working now because of AI. They can't get work anymore.
Right.
They weren't charging a lot to begin with, but then AI is basically free online. So I want to continue working with the humans, while, as I said, trying to work with authors that are going to use AI and have no choice with that. However, you still need me. Yes, I do book trailers. AI can make a book trailer. I do narrations and audio. AI does narrations and audio. But the difference, I mean, a human person reading from a book to a computerized, I mean, you can tell it's AI, but they're very, very good. Don't get me wrong. They're really good. But the idea of having them do the audio book of one of my books, there's no feeling, there's no emotion. They have no idea where the full stop and the comma, how you pronounce something, how you get that emotion over
Inflections and
from. Yes, exactly. It doesn't come across in an AI generated. Anyway, I'm going to get off my high horse now. I could keep going on about AI quite a lot.
It's tough because we're in one of these areas where it's like, again, we understand it's not going away. And so we have to learn somewhat to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
But to what level? And that's the problem, is like, ultimately, if we're a creative and we say, well, I'm going to write my book, but I'm going to use AI to do all the other stuff, we're saying that only our creativeness is important, not that the artist or the audio narrator or whatever is legitimately just as important. So then on the flip side, they could say, well, I'm just going to have AI write a book and then I'll read it. So we have to also understand, we set that bar, as authors. We set that bar as creatives and say, I understand it's here, but I'm not going to cheat and use it solely, or put somebody else out of a job, because that could also put us out of a job. So there's there are ethics.
Tell me about it. Like I said, I took a back seat for quite a few months when AI came out, because it almost broke Author Assist, and it's now having to accept that it's here to stay and I have to work with it.
So here's a question. Did you have anybody that, say, went and used AI, but then came to you later and said, I tried AI, it didn't work, or these were the problems, can you help me? Have you ever kind of run into that scenario?
No. Not as yet.
I just figure people eventually will figure out that, like Anita was saying here, she says, oh, what kind of shit, AI summaries make stuff up. Like, ultimately, eventually, to me, AI has cracks in it, of quality, like cracks in the quality, whether it's that it's making stuff up, or visually you're looking at it and you're like, that's not right. There's always something, there's like these little cracks. And so I think eventually people will, maybe initially they went to that, but eventually they'll say, well, I want something of higher quality, and AI can't give that to me. So I'm going to go back to the creatives. And that's my hope anyway.
I hope for that as well. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's got to be tough. So you say you use AI, or you're working with it a little bit in your stuff, what levels do you do that? And how do you handle like those questions of, do you use AI when you do this? What are you using, or how are you kind of setting those, I guess, boundaries?
I'm avoiding it as much as I can and only use it when I have to. I've been using AI for years without even realizing, through spell check and Grammarly.
Sure.
You know, I absolutely love Grammarly. I will tell everybody to download Grammarly. However, it is a form of AI.
It is.
And people don't realize that. Canva, I've been using that for my graphics for years with Author Assist, and it's always been artificial intelligence that's helps with Canva, even though it's even more so now. So I use it without realizing. I think people do use it without realizing. And I use it for what I believe is the right way and ethical way. The other types of AI, like with writing a book and everything, you won't get me anywhere near. And, you know, if I can, it's like they say with social media, because I do the VA, this is me posting, not a computer. I am posting for the author on their social media or my social media. AI does that as well. Again, it's competing with it, but wouldn't you prefer to work with a human who, when you have issues or when something needs changing or when something needs to go out quickly, you can speak with them one-on-one? Can you help me with this?
Right. And Anita mentions it here too, but I was going to say this too. There are different types of AI, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, AI has been around a lot longer than people kind of realize, because they're saying, "Oh, it just came out." Well,
No.
what they're thinking is the generative AI, which is where people are literally just creating from nothing in AI. That's different than kind of like assistive AI or like that. Like you're using Canva and maybe it has certain elements that you're using. We're still making the initial creation and you're using elements of AI in that. I think that needs to be understood as well. And that's really where I think regulation comes in, where we say, okay, this is this type of AI. This is acceptable. This is stealing from other people. That's generative AI. So I think it's important to have those conversations, because I think a lot of people just think AI and it's blanket, you know, like one type of thing. And I've used Grammarly. I use kind of like Canva. I use Canva too, but I also use BeFunky, which is very similar. And they started labeling some of their stuff AI because it always had been, but now they're labeling it because you do have to answer that question of, did you use AI? Well, I used assistive maybe to tweak something versus I created this cover in whatever. I don't even know the ones that are out there, but you know, I created something from scratch in AI. So I think that's an important conversation to have as well. All right, let's see. Okay, so what time is it? It's 8:46. I have, okay, one more question. So we were talking a little bit about, and you mentioned it, so I wanted to bring this up. A lot of times when we do something for the first time, it doesn't work, or we fail at it. Sometimes we fail gloriously at it. What do you feel? So you talked about your first book and you're being naive, but what do you feel like it taught you doing that for the first time and having mistakes? What do you feel like that taught you moving forward?
If I could go back, I wouldn't have published it. It wasn't ready. And it never is. Your first book never is, but you're so eager to get it out there. Who cares about some spelling mistakes? Readers do, and they'll tell you that in their reviews. A book has only got one life. It's got one chance. And you either put that book out semi-par, not edited, crap cover, no proper launch for it, no publicity, it hasn't been formatted correctly, and you put it out there thinking that's your book and you're going to get sales. What you're going to get is bad reviews and your book's dead. If you're going to spend the time to write a book, and it does take time, blood, sweat and tears, then give it the best chance it has to succeed by hiring a proper editor, having a fantastic cover done by a human, and make sure that it's formatted correctly and that you get someone helping you to get the book launched correctly, published correctly, so it has the best chance of success and you're not going to have any negative reviews.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And I think, you know, do you think you would have, had you not kind of gone through that process with that first book and then the Vanity Press, do you think you ever would have started Author Assist, or do you think a lot of that came from that learning process?
Author Assist came from not having help when I had my book published. Held it in my hand, absolutely the best moment of my life. Now what? Now what? What do I do with this? How do I get people to know about it? How do I get people to read it and review it? And there was no one back then to help me. And so that's why Author Assist started. It wasn't basically me making mistakes and getting it published too early. You figure that out after a couple of books, actually, because then you bring it back and you start editing it again. Everyone knows this. But it was not having that help and knowing that there was going to be 1,000 millions of authors out there in the same boat that will need that help, need that support. They need someone that they can trust. They need someone who has that experience. And so that's why Author Assist started, yeah.
Okay, and the last question I had, and then we'll do the wheel, but the question I had, because you are overseas, you're over in England, and I know I have quite a few author friends that are in Ireland, Scotland, England, and one of their kind of complaints is that they don't have the same access to events and to things where they can connect with other authors as, say, we do in America, because there's always something going on here. Do you find that over there as well?
I was living in Greece for 30 years in a little tiny house in a tiny Greek village on an island.
That sounds amazing.
So no, I had no way of going to any book conventions, to do any book signings, live readings. There was no way of doing that. Every bit of my sales and promotion was done online.
Oh, okay.
Coming over to the UK, we have the book cons, we have the conventions, we have Comic-Con conventions, we have libraries, we have the bookstores. I haven't at this time gone ahead and started a tour or a campaign or anything to get my books out there locally, because although my books are out there, it's my business that takes priority. It's helping others that takes priority. My own promotion of my books is that time that I should be doing my promotion. I'm promoting other authors, and that means more to me than promoting my own books. I've done those books. I'm so proud of them. They've got book awards. They've been bestsellers on Amazon. You know, I've been there, I've done that, and I'm still getting sales. I'm still getting lovely reviews coming in now and again. And I will eventually, hopefully, pick up a pen and finish these 2 books that they're waiting for. But Author Assist is more important for me, to know that I can help other authors that are struggling, that I have that knowledge after 30 years of doing this, that I can help people, that my team, all of my team in Author Assist, have at least 30 years experience in editing, in formatting. You know, it's the logo with the hands. You know, you're in good hands when you're with Author Assist. It's as simple as that.
I love that. Do you think that your time on that island, because you didn't have access to other things, that you had to do it all online, do you feel like that actually taught you a lot about like social media marketing and online marketing?
Most definitely. Yeah. And what happened is when COVID hit and all the authors couldn't go in the US, couldn't go to their book conventions, had no idea how to sell their books, because they've always done sales face to face and in these live appearances. And so they didn't know that Zoom existed. They didn't know that there was ways to sell online. And so I was pretty busy over COVID teaching authors how they can utilize, online promotion and marketing. And to remember that once COVID, of course, disappeared and we got back to normal, and the convention started again, don't forget that door is always going to be open to you.
Right.
Because it's a whole new marketing place. It's a whole new marketing plan. And they didn't know it existed. And now they know. Don't forget, even though you get your sales from live appearances, don't forget that people are there online waiting to hear about your book.
Yeah, you reach so many more people online. I mean, that's ultimately still the issue, is like you can go and do events and they're great and you do make sales and you're face to face, but you're still missing so much of the world market because you're at that event in that town, but you're not, you're not overseas, you're not hitting different places. So I think that it's really important to hold that social media or online marketing equally. And I have to do the same thing. I'm not good at it. That's one of my areas I've always struggled with. But I also recognize it's incredibly important, because you're just not going to hit the people, because somebody over in England isn't going to be at that event in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it is important to make sure you're doing both. And I love that you're doing that. I'll definitely check out your website. Like I said, I've seen you talk about it before, but I really want to dig in a little bit more into it, because you always like, and I do this, but I'm like, well, tell me more. I want to know. That's very cool. Okay, let's do some fun uncomfortableness. We'll do the wheel real quick. So let me get the wheel up here. It's really not bad. I just joke about it. So can you see the wheel?
I can.
Okay. It's getting light, because we're going through these. We remove them week to week, so it's always something different. All right. First injury.
Gosh. I've never had a broken leg or a broken arm or
Wow.
first injury. Wow. No, I really cannot think of one.
That's amazing, because I'm like, I can think of so many.
I have really bad health. I have serious health conditions, but injury, no.
It's funny, because I always think of the one I can remember, which probably isn't my first injury, but it's one of the first one I remember is I was at school, and my brother's always part of these horrible stories, because he just was that bright. He's a little bit older than me, but he was always just like, ugh. So I shut my finger in a door, one of those big metal doors at school, and he's on the other side of the door, and you push it open, and he's just like looking at me like, what are you doing? It's like, I always remember like my fingers in the door.
Aww.
So yeah, I was a very injurious child. So I had broken legs, broken arms. I broke my leg a few years ago. I break a lot of things. So yeah. All right, let's do another.
I do remember one. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I had this I was cooking dinner for my dad and my brother. I'd come home from school, and I had these 2 burgers, and they were frozen. So I got this knife. Okay. And I was going like that. And of course, the burgers opened up and the knife went straight down. And I've still got the scar now on my thumb from,
Oh my gosh.
When I think of injury, I was thinking like broken bones and what have you. But yeah, I remember I had no way of getting to the hospital. So I phoned up 999 and I was like, what do I do? My finger won't stop bleeding. I've cut it with a knife. So the ambulance came to take me to the hospital for a messed up finger. And I remember coming home, and my brother had cooked the rest of the dinner, and there was this tea towel absolutely covered with blood.
Oh my gosh.
Because I just left it on the side when the ambulance came, and there's me with this massive bandage over this thumb, and oh
my god,
that's the one and only time I think I've ever hurt myself.
That's a pretty serious injury. Yeah, did you have to get stitches, or was it just a bandage?
I had stitches, and I've got the scar on my thumb now to remind me of that stupidity.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Okay, let's do one more of these. Let's see. Pull this up again. Share and spin. Aha. First lie.
Right. Again, it's not something that it's probably a little white lie. I'm a very honest person. I don't like liars. That's the worst personality trait that anyone can have if they lie. For me, there's no need. Be honest, get into trouble if you have to, because it's just going to blow up on you anyway if you keep lying. I don't like liars. I try not to lie. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. A little white lie probably, but I can't remember what it was. That's the honest truth.
Yeah, mine was, again, it was when I was a kid, and it was, I shoplifted. I was little, I was like in preschool, and I wanted something in the store. My mother wouldn't let me have it. Back then we all wore little dresses. So I had a little dress, and I rolled up some candy into like the hem of the dress, and then she took me to preschool. Kind of forgot about it when I got out, and the candy fell on the ground. And I picked it up really quick, and my mom's like, "Where'd that come from?" And I was like, "I found it under the car." Like,
clearly, saying that.
Clearly, she didn't believe me, so she took it. But what she didn't know is I still had the other one rolled up in the hem of my dress, and I very happily ate that in school. I did not feel any shame. Now I'm like you, though. I do not lie now, and I can't stand liars, and I would rather just tell the truth and get it over with. So yeah, that was one of those childhood things, that I left behind. So yeah, but yes, I remember that very clearly because I just remember her face like, oh, Like she was just horrified that I had done that. But all right, well, we're coming up to the end of time. So why don't you, again, remind everybody where they can find you, if you have any upcoming events or anything you'd like people to know.
Hopefully you'll start seeing me more online and social media. I haven't done much on there lately. You can find all my books on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and also if you go to PayHip, stroke Dirty Streets Press, that's where you'll find all of my dark romances, very explicit, very graphic, if you like that kind of thing. And of course, any authors out there or anyone who wants to write a book and doesn't know how to start, needs advice, contact me. I'm on Author Assist by kk.com. You can find all of my testimonials there, everything that I can help you with, or find me on social media as Karina Kantas or Author Assist. Send me a message. I don't charge to answer questions on social media, so I'm there if you need me. Utilize me, because that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Well, it was so awesome talking to you tonight, and I really liked learning more about Author Assist. I think it's a very necessary tool nowadays, and we really appreciate you coming on, especially at 1 o'clock in the morning. We really appreciate you coming.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock now in the morning. That's awesome. And and I'll definitely look you up. And for everybody that tuned in, we really appreciate you tuning in tonight. And remember, it's always time for Go Indie Now.